How we doing again? This is Just in Our Minds. Welcome back. So today we're going to talk about 5 subjects that usually hold people back or reasons why we're not succeeding in life. I know for myself and many others, like we were talking about with Felicia on the last podcast, there are going to be factors that may play a part in your life why you're not successful. So today we're going to go over the first one is why you're stuck and what are these inner battles you're facing. So one of the number one factors here is going to be fear of discomfort. And fear of discomfort just puts you in a state of fight or flight usually. And this has to do with self-worth and a lot of other issues that we deal with early on from our childhood to adulthood. And with our state that we're in, with our culture, what happens is we always expect this comfort blanket. And when that comfort blanket's not there, we're not able to process things the way we should. We have far less problem solvers now and everybody waiting to have somebody explain to us how to solve problems. So what I would like to kind of convey to everybody today is, kind of lean into the discomfort. So fear is good. It just depends on where the fear is coming from. If your fear is coming from cortisol levels, from lack of hydration, too much caffeine in the morning, that's going to be a little different thing because you're putting yourself into fight or flight. But what I'd like to kind of say and dial into is just the simple fact that we want to lean into these fear. We want to lean into the fear of not being able to accomplish certain things. Fear is only a construct that we have created in today's life. The type of fear that our ancestors had was more based off of like survival. And so our version of survival, although sometimes it's scary to not get rent in on time, it's scary to not have the idea of food on the table. Now, these are real for some people, but for a lot of us today, it's more of a created fear through social norms. And these types of fear are not going to be the same as an actual lion coming after you. Number 2, it's going to be addictive habits. And addictive habits can be anything that creates a dopamine pattern usually. So dopamine could be your cell phone. It can be substances. It can be validation, external validation through other people. It can be false connections. What we need to do as a society is kind of maybe pull ourselves back from some of these substances, social media, dating apps, and kind of lean into ourselves. And some of the ways to build and get away from dopamine, there are things called dopamine detoxes. You just got to be careful with some of these detoxes. But some of the better options for that, for creating a longer standing neurochemical balance, is going to be to get away from the substances and to get into these harder tasks. So look for the long game. So anything that gives you validation or gives you a quick fix is probably not going to be the best for you in the long run. So instead of maybe just taking that first drink of caffeine early in the morning, maybe do some electrolytes. Instead of hopping right on social media, take a second to do some breath work. Lean into staying away from your phone the first 20 minutes in the morning if possible. I know it can be hard. Try to stay 2 hours into not drinking caffeine before your cortisol levels drop back down again. And then a factor is toxic people or toxic environments. These can put us in a fight or flight. And one thing you could do is you can always have time to change your environment. You always have time or create time to give yourself a little more leeway and to lean into individuals or people or situations that are going to lean into what your goals are. Number 3, it's going to be a lack of self-worth. And what happens when we have a lack of self-worth is usually when self-sabotage comes into play or people-pleasing. So we put ourselves into situations that aren't going to be the greatest for our goals or the longevity of us as an individual. So we're always doing something for the greater good of other people, which is fine. But if it's everybody else's best interest in mind and not your own, or we start creating these mental mind loops of or factors to lean us back into our bad habits, that's where self-sabotage is right there in front of you. So you can have 3, 4 good days, 5 good days, say if it has to do with your diet or work. And then when procrastination and different things come into play, things start falling apart for you. And then most people have some sort of circle of self-sabotage, whether it's a lack of sleep, it's leaning back into our bad friend groups, it's hanging out with the wrong people, it's watching TV at a ridiculous rate, it's making sure that we aren't on social media as much. So we all have these ways and self-sabotage behaviors that usually end us back where we started. So to grow and to break that glass ceiling, we need to make sure that we're just trying to be 1% greater per day and adding one more good habit in per day rather than just getting stuck and leaning back towards those things that have been very self-destructive for us. Number 4, the victim mindset. So a victim mindset is something, or a poverty mindset is something that I've struggled with in the past. I know a lot of people struggle with it as well. Whether it's childhood trauma or some sort of a bad relationship into your adulthood, something, or bad relationships with business, toxic people, once again, there are going to be factors that play into why you're not succeeding. And usually what happens is we have this internal negative dialogue or mental mind loop that puts us into this state where we feel like we deserve less than what we have. So one of those things that or multiple things that you can do, but some of the things that you can do to help solve this issue is just to remind yourself that you're loved and that you do have more in the chamber than you think you do. We all are born, or may not be born equal, but we do have equal opportunities. So just remember that just because somebody else is successful and you don't think you can, one of the number one factors that was able to help them is just to change your internal dialogue and your construct on your own life. Create that flying carpet and be able to get you to the next level of your life. Things in life that feel real heavy and always weigh down on you, it's a lot easier to cave to them than it is to start doing 1 rep a day to help build your shoulders up and to help make sure that you can get to the next level. Number 5 is not having a vision. So a lot of people feel lost or they're looking for purpose, but some people don't realize that if we're not doing stuff like prayer, or we're not leaning into God, or we're not having something to believe in, whether it's God, yourself, or finding some sort of solution like a purpose, like say being a coach or leaning into your job or having a career path that you've worked for a long time, it's really easy to fall off kilter. And if we don't have something or a roadmap to get us to the next destination, then we don't have necessarily a big goal in mind, or we don't even have a small goal in mind. And one of the ways to get you out of that lack of purpose or that lack of vision is to either see something or create something in the forefront. So look at who you admire, start breaking down why you admire those people, and maybe start building some goals off of that. And then you have your macro goal there. And then what you do is you can take that macro goal, split it up into 5 sections, and then you have some micro goals. And then start working on each one of those goals or situations or events and different aspects of your life that maybe put you in that bad situation or you kind of feel less worthy of. So like Felicia said in our past episode, that there's some of the things you got to work on is shadow work. But before you get there, I would say starting to create a blueprint helped me out a ton. It was me realizing that substances in my lives, different people that didn't have my best interest in mind, all of these people and things kind of help keep me down. But the number one thing was me not thinking I was worthy enough, or making sure that I didn't end up in that same mindset. So I'm going to touch on 5 topics as well that'll kind of blend into the overall topic that we're working on today. And number 1. So what these are going to be 5 hard truths that'll help set you free. One of the number one things you can realize is no one's coming to save you. You can have a relationship, you can have a significant other, you can have a great family, but there are going to be times in your life that you're going to face trials and tribulations that no one's going to be there for, or not necessarily no one's going to be there for you, but you're going to be stuck in a situation to where you realize that you're the first person, you're a single person, solo person that comes into this world, and you're leaving this world as a solo person. That being said, being able to handle hard situations or being stuck in hard situations, and say you're in the hospital or something happens, you develop cancer or you lose your job, although it's great to have people to fall back on, at the end of the day, you got to remember how to stand up and create value for yourself, and being able to show yourself empathy or have strength and courage. And some of the ways to create that is just making sure that you know you got this. And to create a stronger person, just remember we got to lean back into the idea and the standard guidelines of being okay with the uncomfortable. So start being able to stack higher standards for yourself, and creating some core values that'll help create and make a stronger person. Here's another thing. Number 2, discipline. Discipline is huge. A lot of people wait for the day for them to have motivation. There's plenty of times that me and Travis don't want to be in here. If we have a lack of sleep, things don't go right, but we find motivation. And if motivation isn't there, then we're going to just continue with our discipline, because you have to show up. Motivation, although it helps in short bursts, one of the things that's wrong with motivation, in my opinion, is it is an illusion. So a lot of people get stuck on the idea of motivation, and if motivation isn't in the room, then they can't complete the task. So if you can lean more on discipline and realize that things just need to get done regardless of how you feel for that day, then you don't have to worry about motivation. But when motivation is there, it'll be beneficial for you. Another one is people identifying with being broken, but not realizing that there are skills necessary and tools and or people that can help you heal your broken, or lean you into the whole idea of being able to heal. And what I mean by that is a lot of people identify with this victim mindset that I spoke of earlier. And what happens is that'll lead you into being lazy. That'll lead you into not wanting to do things. And just knowing or identifying with the idea of being a broken or unfixable individual will just have catastrophic consequences. So if you understand and know that you are not broken, maybe the puzzle piece or there's a wire that's not connected properly, but just know that most of us out there are fixable. We just need to find the tools necessary to be able to fix that, or a person that will be able to help us fix those situations. Just remember, number 4, although helping our friends out, helping our family members out, and being somebody that can be a pillar or a support group for other people, just know that constantly people pleasing is actually a form of self-betrayal. People pleasing, most of the people that people please end up having a quarter glass, or say you have a full, you have a 16-ounce glass, only 4 of those ounces are filled from your cup. And what happens, or we have a hole in the cup and we continuously fill our cup and it's just pouring out anyways. And what are we trying to do? We're continuously trying to fill everybody else's glass, and then we're left with the least amount of fluid or the least amount of liquid, and we're curious why we're the most dehydrated. And so at the end of the day or the beginning of the morning, what we need to do is make sure that our cup is full, and we actually question ourselves. It's like, am I helping this person or this individual or this situation out? And is it helping me, or am I only doing it because I want them to love me or like me? And if you're surrounding yourself with individuals or people that constantly need something from you, and they don't want you for who you are and who you stand for, you as a being, then you're probably people pleasing. And unfortunately, once people pleasers get into situations like business, into relationships, this, that, or the other, people are used to your gift giving. So just remember, if you don't have any water in your cup, you can't fill anybody else's cup. And when those cups aren't full, everybody's going to sit back and look at each other, and some of those people are going to start fading because you're not filling up their cup, and they're going to find somewhere else to fill it up because they're used to that perpetual pleasure seeking, and they're used to that people pleasing, and they're used to that gift giving, and they're going to find it somewhere else. And those are not the people that we should surround ourselves with. So create boundaries and learn how to fill up your cup, take a few drinks, and be able to handle learning how to fill the pitcher instead. So then you have enough for yourself and everybody else around you. Number 5, as we talk about the healing and this healing process, one of the things that is not talked about enough isn't just like say we have Buddha. Buddha was a prince beforehand. He left his temple. He left his kingdom. He was on the road for enlightenment. He was searching everywhere he could. He went through an emaciation phase where he broke himself down into almost like a serious starvation mode. And that starvation mode, if you look up Zombie Buddha. So Zombie Buddha is a version of Buddha that most people don't talk about. So what happens is he got so sucked up. He wasn't eating, drinking. He wasn't doing anything for himself because he was looking for enlightenment. And what I'm getting at here is while we're on the healing journey and part of our enlightenment phase, things tend to get lonely. When you start creating boundaries and you're leaning into something or you're changing yourself, a lot of people never change. A lot of people don't have growth at the exponential rate they think they want to or do. So what happens? People start projecting. People start saying you changed. People start thinking you're a different person, this, that, and the other. And if you're leaning into things for the greater good for yourself, but other people aren't changing, whether it's family or friends, what happens is it gets lonely. And, there's a separation in between your old life and your new life. And if you don't find people in between that bridge can get pretty lonely, and it's a long walk by yourself. But just know if you're doing everything you can, you're getting away from your bad habits, you're getting away from toxic relationships, you're getting away from toxic friendships, you're going from a position point of, self-sabotage and or just in a bad toxic environment, and you're walking yourself physically and metaphysically towards this new life. It's going to be a lonely path sometimes, and that's okay. Just remember that if you're doing things for the greater good for yourself, just remember that on the other side of that, you're going to find far greener grass. And then on that being said, one of the only places you're going to ever find green grass is where you water it. There's not going to be any other destination in your life that is going to be better than where you're at now, because we're the writers of our destiny. You have the pen, you have the sword. And the only person that's writing your story is you. We're going to go into 5 modern day lies that we see a lot that create a false narrative for self-worth. The first one is more likes, more follows equals stronger or a more dynamic individual. I see it a lot. I've gone through the ringer myself. Just remember that your social media presence, although the dopamine feels good, you might get paid from it. Maybe you're creating something in business. Do not get too attached to these kind of situations, because that's not you. It's just a part of you. It's a business. It's a strategy to help you get your message out there. But just remember that that's not you. So don't wrap your identity around these social media following or these businesses. Just remember it's a mask. You take that mask off. Physique competitions, bikini, all these things, skateboarding, professional skateboarding. Robbie, he talked about that. MMA, pro MMA fighters, I know that used to be UFC fighters and this, that, and the other. They fought for a long time in the UFC. When that faded, those just like followers or anything else, that's not you. It's a part of you. It's a stage in your life. It's a chapter, but it's not the whole book. Fuck, a lot of these people, you're gonna have 3 or 4 books. You're gonna have a trilogy. Next thing you know, you have a whole saga. But just remember that these are bits and pieces of you. It's not the whole puzzle. So don't identify too heavily with these. Number 2 in this category, just because you're busy does not mean you're doing something that fills your soul or your heart. A lot of people end up with a lot of this busy work. It's something to do with our school systems. It's a construct that we are developed with. We go from kindergarten to college and anywhere in between, and we're stuck with busy work because that's what we were taught to use. So A lot of people find self-confidence or self-worth being busy and always having something to tell people, well, I'm doing this, this, and this. But if you're not feeling something and it's not feeding your soul and it's not purposeful, then maybe it's not for you. Just because you're busy doesn't mean that it's worth your time. Now, if you have to have a paycheck for now, you're working to something greater, amazing. Not saying don't go to high school, not saying don't go to college, but at the end of the day, what we want to do is we want to find something that's worth our time, because there's so many people here that are a slave to a dollar. You end up as a prostitute archetype for money, and we're not happy, and we don't have that peace of mind. It's not always about happiness, but there are the rise in self-inflicted death, suicide, and anywhere in between, divorce, faulty marriages, people getting with the wrong people, wrong friend groups. A lot of these, just having a bad life is really hard in a first world society that we have so much to go. We have so much to go off of, and I think a lot of that has to do with people wrapping their self-worth around social media and what they're doing for work. Number 3, there is no timeline. The journey is the destination. It doesn't matter if you're 21, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. There's always time for you to find what it is for your life, and there's always time for you to get up, brush yourself off, and to keep moving. You don't need it all figured out. No one has it all figured out. And the person that says they do are probably lying to us. Maybe there's a couple people, but I highly doubt it. Everybody's always learning something new. And just remember, you're forever the student. Once your ego gets in the way, you're afraid of these failures, you're afraid of these issues, like we were talking about earlier in the podcast. That's where we'll start getting compressed depression, and we'll give ourselves that negative dialogue, and that we'll just fall victim to the matrix. That's when the oil starts wearing off, and these gears get a little bit heavier and more dense. And most people don't have it figured out. You don't need it figured out by 21, 30, 45. You can look at people like Harrison Ford and Bill Gates and Elon Musk. Most of these people didn't have it figured out. In a lot of ways, they still don't. But they found a reason. They found a purpose. They were able to dive deeper into those situations, and they fail forward. They're figuring it out along the way. 3 things that we got to make sure we stop doing in this society is suppressing it, distracting away from it, and avoiding it. Avoiding issues, ghosting individuals, not talking about the things we need to, not being vulnerable, not having communication are some of the biggest issues we have in this society today. That's what's separating us as individuals. We can't just sit down and have a conversation. Our egos keep getting more and more inflated. The more you cover things up and you don't talk about them is one of the biggest reasons why we end up having these tough relationships with ourselves and other individuals, is because all we needed to do at the beginning was be more vocal. And if more people understand where you're coming from, whether it's internally or externally, I know a lot of us don't understand what we want in life or who we are as individuals, but if we can talk more often, we get more comfortable. And if we're around the people that are actually comfortable with having conversations with us, then we're around the people that we need to be. But this is a way to get the snakes out of the grass, or to get the bad people out of your circle. Because if they can't take you from a genuine person and who you genuinely are, then you're always living within the shadow of this character you created. And we're always going to have issues with and conflicts with conversation, or false intentions, or just endless things when it comes to relationships, friendships, and business ventures. Number 5. Just remember, the system does not have your best interest at heart. And being able to create something for yourself, to help others, if your goals are financial, fine, but you're filling the wrong side. You have if you look into some of the old stories. There's one that comes from the native culture. From my understanding, it talks about feeding the 2 wolves. And I promise you, if you're constantly thinking the system has your best interest in mind, you're feeding the wrong wolf. Just remember to start doing things for yourself in life. Start creating things that may have a more purposeful driven, that you wake up smiling in the morning to be able to accomplish. If you do everything for the sake of the system, I promise those gears are going to chew you up and spit you out eventually. So just make sure that you have something, whether it's a hobby, it's a support group, something in your life that'll help make sure that you have a way out of the system or something else to focus your time and efforts on. You can volunteer, you can donate, whatever it is, just make sure you're doing something that feeds that soul, and fills your heart, and just you wake up smiling in the morning. Because so many people just wake up, they punch that clock out, or they punch their snooze, they punch their alarm, they're off to work, they work a 9 to 5, they work a 4 to, they have 4/12s, whatever that is, and they're just never satisfied. There's always more. They rely on materialism. They rely on so many things in this life that doesn't feed anything but the void. So if you can learn to understand some of the hobbies, some of the internal, creating an internal dialogue, or being able to create something that feeds the soul. That's what today's about. Today's podcast is about, is just being able to dial those things in, and just wake up with a smile once in a while. You won't have that every day. I don't think life is created to be happy. I think life is created to find purpose and to have a peace of mind, to know you're doing more than you did yesterday, and knowing that you're doing something that feeds your soul, your heart, and it isn't just like this tactile. You're not this tactile cog that's just stuck in the matrix, helping feed a system that is issuing out papers and politics and creating structures that are not feeding us as individuals. I'm not sure if I have much more today, so have a wonderful day, everybody, and thank you for listening.